Coach Troy here from Metro Lutheran Ministries Financial Opportunity Center, here today to continue our series of videos about financial literacy. Now, we've been discussing the terms and concepts that everyone should understand to be better informed when it comes to your financial world. And you can check out our previous videos where we talked about things like the annual percentage rate and so forth on our YouTube page. There'll be a link at the end of this video. But let's get started with today. Now, I want you to picture your debt as a bunch of buckets. They're filling up with water, and that water represents the money that you spend each month to pay your bills. Now, this big blue bucket, it represents the money for your home loan. That home loan is usually your biggest and most expensive debt that you have. The slightly smaller bucket on the left might be student loans that are still left over and need to be paid for. The even smaller loan on the right, that little silver bucket, is going to represent the car loan that you may have that needs to be paid. Okay? Now, at this point, I think you probably get what the buckets represent. So we're going to move on and keep going. Now, paying loans individually is kind of a chore. I mean, when we have different lenders, we have to make 3 or 4 or 5 different payments. We're paying different interest rates, and it can just be a challenge. But what if we could put all those loans into just one big loan? Now that's a big bucket. And that big bucket represents the concept that we're talking about today, which is the debt consolidation loan. All right? If we could put everything into one place, make one payment on a perhaps lesser rate of interest, right? Well, gosh, that's kind of the definition of a debt consolidation loan. It's the combining of multiple smaller loans into one larger loan, and often you're going to see that that's going to get a smaller rate of interest attached to it. Sounds pretty good, right? But let's stop for a second. This topic has many people that either take a very positive stance towards them and they love consolidation loans, or they absolutely hate debt consolidation loans. Now, the example we're going to use today, at least the first part of this example, it was actually something posted by Dave Ramsey. You remember him. He's the Financial Peace University guy. Great guy, great program. And I want to be clear, the information that it provides is accurate. And when it's time, I'll show you where I sometimes disagree with his conclusion about a consolidation loan. But here's the beginning of the example. And as you can see on the screen, you've got a credit debt of $10,000, possibly paying off some maxed out credit cards. You owe for a car loan of $20,000. And you can see the interest rate for each of those loans and how much the monthly payment is to try to get these loans paid off. And you can see the total payment. So the total payment there that's blasting on through of $1,100 per month means that over the course of 41 months, this person will have spent $34,821 in an attempt to get their debt paid off. Now, let's add the consolidation loan and compare. This is, again, the example that Dave Ramsey uses. You can see the same amount of $30,000 because we just added the two into one debt. You see a lower interest rate. You see a lower monthly payment. But you also see down at the bottom here, you see a larger amount of money that had to be paid overall. Matter of fact, it's nearly $3,000. Well, it's a little over $2,000. But you see it took 17 months longer to pay that debt off. And these are the two numbers that make Dave Ramsey crazy. Seriously, he hates debt, but he holds a special place, you know where, for this kind of debt. Now, this is where I possibly disagree with a lot of coaches. And that is, if we look at these two numbers, your total payment. In the example that they use, you were paying $1,100 And then they swing it over and say you're only going to pay $640. Now that leaves $460 that needs to go to work somewhere. And what a lot of people use the consolidation loan for is that $460 would become something that they can use on their day-to-day expenses. All right. Now, what if I were to suggest that we use that $460 to pay on the consolidation loan? That could be fun. Let's see what happens. Now, we're going to move this over to the consolidation loan plan B. And it's still, as you see, $3,000, still a 9% interest rate, but now we're going to pay $835 a month. That's about half of the difference between what we were paying and the Ramsey example. Look what happens here. Now we're at $35,084 in 42 months. So we're real close. We're $200 or so, maybe $250 away from the total amount that they spent. We're only a month longer. That looks pretty entertaining, but watch the next step because it's going to get even better. What if we tried to pay the same amount? So we're going to go fairly close, and I wound up with this number, 1,058, which is close to the 1,100 we were paying. And that was just to make this end in exactly 32 months. So in 32 months, if I can make this payment, I'm only going to pay $33,856. Now I'm nearly $1,000 less than the original two debts, and I'm going to pay them off 9 months sooner. So it's fairly amazing what can happen like that. So it sounds great, right? So why do some people dislike what's going to happen in the consolidation loan process? Well, you have to remember, a consolidation loan is going to require some effort and some discipline that maybe some people aren't going to be used to. So it's just going to repeat my question here because I jumped ahead. Why do they dislike them? Here's why. The question is, what can happen if, and that if is bolded and highlighted for a reason. What can happen if you use the consolidation loan for, say, multiple credit cards, and then you continue to add to your debt by using the credit cards or getting more credit cards and using them? What if you take that $460 and think that that's going to be good for another car payment? And so now you go out and qualify for another car because you've got a lot of debt already. It's probably going to have a high credit rate, interest rate on it. And so it depends on the discipline of the person using a consolidation loan. If you're disciplined, you might wind up being okay using one. But if you struggle, you go from being in a little bit of trouble into being in a lot of trouble right off the bat. All right. So at this point, you should understand pretty much what a consolidation loan is at this point. It's kind of what it says it is. It's going to consolidate all your loans into one, and it has some possible benefits, but they can be confusing because of how they're going to impact with you and your discipline and whether or not you can manage to make this work for you or not. So before you jump out and get into one, you might want to talk to somebody. And that's where we come in at the Metro Lutheran Ministry Financial Opportunity Center. You can come in and talk to the coaches here, and we can walk you through your options and help you understand its impact on you. Remember, our services are always free here. We're not a for-profit operation. Find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Watch more of our videos on YouTube. And if you'd like to talk to us here in the Kansas City metro area, give us a phone call at 816-285-3131. And remember, feed the pig.